In the first fight, we have Rayanne dos Santos versus Ardelean. Rayanne dos Santos is 29 years old, 14-8, 2-3 in her last 5 fights, coming off a loss 11 months ago. She lands 4.36 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.61. She has a 46% finish rate and is a -278 favorite. Ardelean is 30 years old, 9-7, 2-3 in her last 5 fights, coming off a loss 7 months ago. She lands 4.97 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.97. She has a 50% finish rate and is a +225 underdog. Both ladies are on a 2-fight skid and still looking for their first win in the UFC. The fight should play out on the feet as both ladies are strikers. Both ladies also have decent output, landing over 4 significant strikes. Their stats are pretty similar. Dos Santos is more of a boxer, but is an opportunistic submission threat with 8 submission wins on her resume. Ardelean uses a bit more output and sneaks in a takedown every so often. Either woman can win this fight. I think it's a coin flip fight, but I'm gonna go with Dos Santos to get it done. In the next fight, we have Marquel Mederos versus Bolaji. Marquel Mederos is 28 years old, 10-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a win 1 month ago. He lands 4.39 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.61. He has a 55% finish rate and is a +160 underdog. Bolaji is 29 years old, 9-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a loss 7 months ago. He lands 5.63 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.58. He has a 55% finish rate and is a -192 favorite. Mederos is a striker with decent power in his hands. We don't know what his grappling really looks like. We could get this answered in this fight. Oki's coming off getting put to sleep by Chris Duncan in a submission in his last fight. Both men have solid output, but Oki uses slightly more volume. Oki also likes to use his wrestling as he lands over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. I see path to victories for both men. Mederos could be the better technical striker on the feet. Oki will enjoy a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Oki might have to resort to his grappling to get the win. I really think Mederos is a very live dog here. It's a tough pick. I'm back and forth on this one, but I'm going to go with Bolaji. In the next fight, we have Holobaugh versus Jordan Leavitt. Holobaugh is 38 years old, 22-9, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a win 5 months ago. He lands 4.65 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.3. It's a 58% finish rate and is a +145 underdog. Jordan Leavitt is 29 years old, 11-3, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, coming off a loss 4 months ago. He lands 2.55 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 1.84. He has a 57% finish rate and is a -175 favorite. Both men are coming off losses. Holobaugh likes to walk forward and get his opponents backed up against the octagon. He's got some solid power and also is a slick submission threat as well. Jordan Leavitt is primarily a BJJ guy. He's pretty low output on the feet, and grappling is definitely where he wants this fight to be. Should be an interesting matchup. Holobaugh is 38 years old, and as we know, Father Time is undefeated. Path to victory for Holobaugh for me will be to keep the fight on the feet, get Jordan Leavitt backed up against the octagon, land some big shots. Leavitt, in my opinion, will need to be careful on the feet, get a takedown, use some control time, ground and pound, and possibly look for a submission. Holobaugh is another very live dog here, but I'm going to go with Jordan Leavitt, but I'm not very confident in this pick. In the next fight, we have Trevin Giles versus Andres Gustafsson. Giles is 32 years old, 16-7, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 6 months ago. Giles lands 3.17 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.39, has a 48% finish rate. Gustafsson is 34 years old, 11-2, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO win 9 months ago. Gustafsson lands 4.56 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.12, and he has a 77% finish rate. Trevin Giles is on a 3-fight skid. Couldn't really pull the trigger in his last fight against Mike Malott. Before that fight, he had gotten finished twice, so that possibly played a role in it. Where's his confidence going to be at now? Gustafsson will be making his UFC debut off of Dana White's Contender Series. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Gustafsson's a grinder, has solid output, landing over 4.5 significant strikes per minute. He also lands 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes. Gustafsson also is a finisher with almost an 80% finish rate. I think in this matchup, Giles is going to try to stay on the outside with leg kicks, boxing, trying to dart in and get out of range. Giles may have a slight speed advantage on the feet. For me, I think Gustafsson will be looking to get this fight into the clinch, mix it up a little bit, get the fight to the ground at some point. I think he wants to make this a very dirty fight. I think the tentativeness of Giles might get him into trouble here. I think for Giles to get the win, he'll need to take the fight to Gustafsson instead of waiting for Gustafsson to bring the fight to him. Gustafsson on the other side needs to continue doing what got him here, marching forward and just imposing his will on Giles. For me, I think Gustafsson gets it done. In the next fight, we have Ramiz Brahimaj versus Oban Elliot. Ramiz is 32 years old, 11-5, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a win 6 months ago. He lands 2.26 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.04, gets a 69% finish rate, and is a plus 455 underdog. Oban Elliot is 27 years old, 12-2, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, coming off a win 3 months ago. He lands 4.26 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.25, gets a 43% finish rate, and is a minus 625 favorite. Both men are coming off brutal KO wins. Brahimaj is on a 1-fight win streak. Elliot's on an 8-fight win streak. Brahimaj showed he does have some power in his hands in his last fight, but he's a bit low output. I think that could get him into trouble here. Also, Brahimaj has 10 submission wins on his resume. I think that's his path to victory here. Elliot typically uses his output, striking defense to get ahead of his opponents and just build with more and more volume. Both men use some grappling as Brahimaj lands 1.51 takedowns and Elliot lands 2.16 takedowns per 15 minutes. I think Elliot, if he uses solid fight IQ, I think he'll get the job done of not overextending, not getting out of position. But I can see this fight being a bit slow, but give me Oban Elliot. In the next fight, we have Ketlen Vieira versus Maycee Chiasson. Ketlen Vieira is 33 years old, 14-4, 3-2 in her last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 7 months ago. She lands 2.92 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.90. She has a 33% finish rate and is a minus 115 favorite. Maycee Chiasson is 33 years old, 11-3, 3-2 in her last 5 fights, coming off a TKO win 10 months ago. She lands 3.77 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.79. She has a 50% finish rate and is a minus 105 underdog. Vieira's coming off a tough loss to Kayla Harrison, where she made it tougher than most people thought it would be for Kayla Harrison. Vieira has decent striking. She likes to get into the clinch, control her opponents up against the octagon. She does have a tendency of eating some shots though. Chiasson's on a 2-fight win streak, both by stoppage. She's got a good win over Norma Dumont, and that's aged pretty well. I think Chiasson would be the slightly better striker, use a bit more footwork than Vieira, as Vieira is much more of a plotter. I think this fight will be on the slower side, but I think Chiasson's output will get her ahead in the fight early. I think whoever dictates the grappling to their opponent is who will get the nod here. Both ladies mix it up with the grappling, and for me, this is another coin flip fight, but I'm going to take the underdog, and I'm going with Maycee Chiasson. In the next fight, we have Jafel Filho versus Allan Nascimento. Filho is 32 years old, 16-3, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a submission win 1 year ago. He lands 2.36 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2, has a 79% finish rate, and is a plus 142 underdog. Allan Nascimento is 33 years old, 20-6, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a submission win 2 years ago. He lands 3.21 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.28, he has a 62% finish rate, and is a minus 170 favorite. Both men have been out of octagon for some time, Filho for 1 year and Nascimento at 2 years. Both men also are 2-1 in the UFC. What kind of rust would there be for each guy? Both men have really BJJ, as Filho has 10 submission wins and Nascimento has 15. When we have 2 grapplers like this, the fight has a tendency playing out on the feet. Nascimento uses slightly more output, but is also a bit more hittable as well. I think Filho will have slightly more power in his hands, but neither guy has shown to be a big power puncher. This is another coin flip fight for me, and I think this is really close. Filho is a very live dog here, and I'm going to go with him. I'm going to take another underdog. The 2-year layoff just worries me for Nascimento. In the next fight, we have Zachary versus Dusko Todorovic. Zachary Reese is 31 years old, 8-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO loss 4 months ago. He lands 4.94 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.45, he He has a 70% finish rate and is a plus 120 underdog. Dusko Todorovic is 31 years old, 12-5, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, coming off a TKO loss 6 months ago. He lands 5.35 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.8. He has a 65% finish rate and is a minus 140 favorite. Both men are on skids, 1 fight for Reese and 2 for Todorovic. Both got finished brutally as well. Reese will enjoy a 3-inch height and reach advantage. On the feet, I think Reese will be the slightly better striker. Todorovic just has his chin in the air so much, just there to be hit in all of his fights. Reese does have some long-range strikes, specifically the teeps to the body and the roundhouse body kick when he's southpaw. Even when Todorovic holding his chin straight up in the air, Reese has been knocked out brutally in 2 of his 4 UFC fights. So if Todorovic finds Reese's chin, it could be curtains. Ultimately, though, I'm going to take Zach Reese. I think he gets back in the win column here. Todorovic just leaves his chin in the air entirely too much, and I think he gets caught at some point. In the next fight, we have Dustin Jacoby versus Bruno Lopez. Dustin Jacoby is 37 years old, 29-1, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, coming off a KO win 5 months ago. He lands 5.33 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.05, has a 47% finish rate, and is a minus 150 favorite. Bruno Lopez is 32 years old, 14-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 4 months ago. He lands 2.89 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3, has a 73% finish rate, and is a plus 130 underdog. Dustin Jacoby is coming off a brutal KO win over Vitor Petrino. Bruno Lopez is on a 3-fight win streak, coming off a decision win in his UFC debut. Dustin Jacoby is a former kickboxer. He uses both stances and will be the more technical striker. Lopez is a bit more power in his hand, but is much lower output, looking to land those big power shots. Lopez does have some grappling in his back pocket as well, and I think if he's smart, he'll definitely use it straight away in this fight. Lopez will need to fight on the front foot and not let Jacoby get comfortable. If he does, I think Jacoby can pick Lopez apart from range using feints and a lot of footwork. I'm going to go with the experience here and take Dustin Jacoby, but wouldn't be surprised at all if Lopez catches Jacoby or uses his grappling as well. I think this is going to be a really good fight. In the next fight, we have Billy Ray Goff versus Seokyeon Kyo. Billy Ray Goff is 26 years old, 9-3, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 1 year ago. He lands 8.56 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.50. He has a 58% finish rate and is a plus 110 underdog. Okan Quo is 31 years old, 11-2, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 8 months ago. He lands 3.6 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.33. He has a 46% finish rate and is a minus 130 favorite. Goff is on a 1-fight skid. Ko is on a 4-fight win streak. Goff is 1-1 in the UFC. Ko will be making his UFC debut off of Dana White's Contender Series. Goff is very early in his career, so we're still learning his game for real. Both men mix it up well with the striking and the grappling. They both land 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. It'll be interesting to see if one guy imposes their will on the ground or if it stays on the feet. I think this fight has a chance to be more competitive than most people think. Could end up being a very fun fight, but I'm going to go with Billy Ray Goff. But Ko getting it done would not surprise me at all. In the co-main event, we have Mateusz Gamrot versus Ludwig Klein. Mateusz Gamrot is 34 years old, 24-3, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision loss 9 months ago. He lands 3.23 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.22, has a 48% finish rate, and is a minus 145 favorite. Ludwig Klein is 30 years old, 23-4-1, 4-0-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 7 months ago. He lands 3.81 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 3.22. He has a 61% finish rate and is a plus 125 underdog. Gamrot's on a 1-fight skid after an absolute war with Dan Hooker that I actually thought he won. Klein is coming off a tougher than expected decision win over Roosevelt Roberts. Klein is on a 7-fight unbeaten streak. This would be the classic striker versus grappler matchup. Gamrot is usually nonstop chain wrestling in his fights. However, in his last fight against Dan Hooker, it played out on the feet much more than anyone was expecting. Gamrot has made improvements in his striking, and it's very evident. Klein is a technical striker. He has really nice kicks, uses combinations well. It'll be interesting to see if the wrestling threat makes him a bit more tentative on the feet. The big question for me is, when does Gamrot get that first takedown? If it happens early in the fight, I think it could potentially set the tone and he could just start wearing Klein down. Klein will have to keep this fight on the feet at all costs. Even though Gamrot doesn't have the best control on the ground, all the chain wrestling and the scrambling will just wear the striker and Klein down. On the feet, Klein will need to hold his ground, get some respect, and not get backed up against the side of the octagon. If Klein holds his ground and lets his hands go without overextending, he can keep Gamrot from shooting those takedown attempts. Ultimately, I think the improvements in Gamrot striking shown in the Dan Hooker fight and the grappling threat will be enough to get it done. Before we get into the main event, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. In the main event, we have Erin Blanchfield versus Maycee Barber. Erin Blanchfield is 26 years old, 13-2, 4-1 in her last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 6 months ago. She lands 5.24 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 4.21. She has a 40% finish rate and is a -170 favorite. Maycee Barber is 27 years old, 14-2, 5-0 in her last 5 fights, coming off a decision win 1 year ago. She lands 4.7 significant strikes per minute, absorbs 2.9. She has a 50% finish rate and is a +145 underdog. Erin Blanchfield rebounded nicely against Rose Namajunas after taking her first loss in the UFC to Manon Fiorot. In her loss, we got to see where Blanchfield is vulnerable, and that's in the striking and her wrestling. On the ground, I really think she's elite, but she has real issues when she can't get the fight to the ground. We're gonna find out if her takedown entries have gotten any better. Maycee Barber's on a 6-fight win streak, has some real momentum. She mixes things up well between the striking and the grappling, and I really think that that will be her path to victory. She'll have to keep Blanchfield guessing and maybe even get her own takedowns against Blanchfield. I think this fight will be a cat fight as both women are very tough. Blanchfield uses a bit more output, but her shots can be a bit wild. I think both women will win rounds and this fight will be very close. Wouldn't surprise me at all if we get a split decision here where either fighter has a case for winning the fight. But I'm going to go with Erin Blanchfield. I think the loss to Manon is going to serve her well and getting better. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Questions, comments, thoughts, and your feedback is always welcome. And as always, until next time.